Hello everybody, Panzer King back in the Lion's Den. And we've reached the end of 1936. And we are moving on to 1937. And what has happened throughout the world? Well, a lot and not a lot. The major events right now is that the Brazilians up here and the Argentinians down here, well, they don't like each other. They're gonna go to war. I was lucky enough to roll that wonderful die. Actually, I rolled a 7, which was about the Falkland Islands of all things, but it's not Axis aligned. So now the Brazilians and the Argentinians are going to go to war because I rolled a 5, which is going to be very interesting. We'll see what General Hand Grenade has in store for us. He's probably going to take the battleship Rivadavia and the torpedo boat destroyer and attack these lovely ships in the Brazilian Navy, the coastal defense ship and the torpedo boat destroyer, for a naval campaign. But nonetheless, nobody here in Argentina or Brazil is ready for a war. Nobody's on the front lines. But nonetheless, I'm pretty sure this war is going to carry on for quite a bit. I could be wrong, but like I say, there's no end to the war, so they might be fighting till, well, somebody wins. So exciting, nonetheless, very exciting. The USA tried to influence Brazil to no avail. We were close, we got a 4, and we were hoping for a 3 or less. But as you can pan up here, we have lots of pro-Axis neutrals and pro-Allied territories to go for, either faction and even the Soviets to try a coup. The American Navy with the Oklahoma and the California and the old Saratoga up there are just sitting pretty and not doing too much because they can't do quite a lot in the opening turns because America's neutral. However, across the Atlantic in Spain, interesting development. Well, the Italians lend-leased a tank this turn. The Germans lend-leased a fighter here. The territories have kind of gone back and sway. I think the Republicans have taken it a bit on the chin right now, but nonetheless holding their own. But I have a sneaky feeling they're going to barge into Madrid next turn and try to take the capital away from them, the nationalists. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. You never know what happens in a game like this, right? But further over abroad, we have seen the British fleet on the move. The HMS Glorious has moved out of the Mediterranean. And over here in the Indian Ocean, the HMS Furious has also moved out of the Indian Ocean over to the west side of the Indian Ocean with the HMS Rodney. And up here, the Warspite is protecting Alexandria and El Alamein. We have not a lot of movements with the Italian fleet and the Julius Caesari, but the damn Germans, what do? They annexed Austria. They sneaky little guys. The French have done a few little upgrades. They placed a sub here. They upgraded Syria, and because we're playing the colonial expansion, we have, if I remember correctly, French Guiana. We have an infantry upgrade there, as well as over on Anatonkin here too as well. Speaking of upgrades, the Japanese did put down this colonial mountain infantry, which is kind of a cool unit, and didn't do a lot of attacking. Actually, they built up their industry. They have now a major factory in Kyushu, Tokyo, and are starting another in Honshu. So interesting development there. It's going to take a lot of IPP to develop that. The Chinese down here fortified their opium trade in Szechuan since we are playing China at war. And there's 3 opium tokens here. One is in Cochin, China. The other one's over here in Afghanistan. And the one right up here in Szechuan. If you're a Russian CCP or KMT player, if you control those, you will get an extra $1 each. So that is good for the enemies of the enemies to hopefully conquer and take over. The Far East Command have deployed a few troops in India, moved some stuff around. Down here, not a lot has gone on with Australia. They didn't do a strategic naval move up here into the Line Islands and further north, where we can see the Tennessee and the Nevada staying put in San Diego. But we have the Queen's Own Light Infantry, the Patricias, and the Queen's Own up there in British Columbia. possibly waiting for deployment. And here we see the mighty Japanese Empire with the Yamashiro, the Nagato, the battlecruiser Kirishima, light carrier Shoho, and what do we got here? We got the Soryo as well, and we got a whole bunch of Navy planes patrolling the skies over Japan. Chinese warlords haven't done too much. Obviously, they're just keeping control of their empire, seeing what happens if the KMT, CCP, or the Japanese decide to attack. Mongolians are staying neutral as they usually do. And over here in Russia, some minor moves. We now have the Svetlana commanding the 2 destroyers, submarine, and coastal sub as part of the Black Sea Fleet. So she's the new capital ship in the Black Sea. And yeah, Turkey slowly being influenced by the Italians of all things. And we'll see what happens there. The British did not influence at this turn, and the Germans were not successful. As we scroll up here, we have a Canadian transport in the Channel Islands area, as well as the Nelson has been brought down with her escorts to go into the channel to see possibly what they can do to keep an eye on particular German U-boats like this U-325 sneaking in there. Speaking of which, the Spanish ships of the nationalists were sunk by the Republicans in Sea Zone 33. And I believe that's probably all, guys. There's probably a few things I'm missing, but nonetheless, this is kind of just a brief update of what's happened here after the first turn in Operation Crimson Tide. Stay tuned and we'll see what happens in January of 1937. Panzer King in the Lion's Den signing off. You guys all stay classy.